Hello there, my name's Vinny Voodoo and this is a video dedicated to the high resolution texture pack 2. So before we go any further, if you only own Warzone, you'll probably know that it's very difficult, if not impossible, to actually install texture packs as there's no game installs option under settings. This is a workaround that was posted on one of my previous videos by one of my viewers, and he's asked to remain anonymous, and I appreciate that, but his workaround works. Now, there's a couple of caveats here. You don't want to have Modern Warfare installed, although if you've got Modern Warfare installed, you probably already have game installs, so for you it's not a problem. But you will need Cold War. Now currently there's a zombie weekend or week free, as you can see in the bottom right there, play zombies for free, and you can download the full Cold War game, although you can only access the zombie mode, for a week. So anyone can use that to get this to work. So how does it work? Well, once you've got Cold War in, you'll see, you boot Cold War up and you'll see Cold War, Warzone and Modern Warfare on the right. Go to Modern Warfare on the right and go down to Co-op. Select that. Now, of course, you don't have Modern Warfare. So what it does is actually fires up Warzone. But Warzone's looking for something from Modern Warfare, and the upshot is it goes to the Game Installs menu. From there, scroll down to High Resolution Texture Pack 1, grab that if you haven't got it, and Texture Pack 2 is there as well, grab that. I think 1 is 25 gig and 2 is 10 gig. Once downloaded, it'll install itself automatically, you shouldn't need to do anything more. You can then close Warzone or run it again and it will automatically be there the next time you play. So it's a very easy way of getting it in as long as you have access to Cold War. Even if you have to borrow a friend's copy of Cold War to do this, install it, do it, give it back to them. There are other ways that I've read, such as deleting game saved data, and I'm not going to recommend any of that at this point because I don't want to be responsible for you losing any progress in the game. I don't think you do, but this is the way to do it safely and easily, quite quickly. So with all that said, why don't we go see what, if anything, it has changed. When it went in, I must admit, I wasn't expecting any change. And by the tone of my voice, you'll be surprised to hear there has been a change. Before I get to that though, I'd like to comment something about the way that the operators from Cold War works, since I'm going to be looking at them specifically. If you look at my operator here, I'm currently on Adler, but I'm going to go to Stitch, is it? Yeah, Stitch. Right. If you look at his accoutrement around his neck, you'll notice that, let me go into a mode that I can zoom in. You'll notice that symbol around his neck and all of his dog tags and all of that don't move. This is true of several other operators I've noticed, but right now I'll overlay the same operator from Cold War, and you'll notice here they're swaying around naturally, unlike the Warzone version. So what we have here is not a pool of assets. What we have here is clearly a facsimile and interpretation in Warzone of the Cold War operator. And I'm kind of wondering, you know, how many duplications now I have on my hard drive. Say, for example, I own Modern Warfare, Cold War, and Warzone. Are there 3 versions of the operator? You know, or the guns at least? It is interesting to me that that was such a telling thing, that his accoutrement there don't swing. Everything else looks fairly similar, but clearly this is a version that doesn't have the code to make his jewelry and bling at the top there swing. But that's enough of that. You know, I want to talk about Adler. Well, this is where I first noticed the difference, because if I go up to the side of this now, the JPEG compression, it's still there. That is still not a modeled pocket, it's just a texture, but it looks better. I'm going to flick over to the previous shot of his bum coming up, and then we'll come back to this and we'll see things like the rivets on its tool belt now have a specular highlight. It's not just a dirty texture. It's kind of hard to see there, but you can sort of see a sheen coming off them. They look like modelled rivets now. I'm sure it's just a simple bump mat, but the dowel that he's got there on the left in the tool belt has little hot notches in it of use. But interesting to note, I'm going to show you again in a minute, the Cold War version of this. See the straps under his crotch? They're just sort of there. They don't stick out. But if we go to the Cold War version of this guy, you'll see they are actual modeled straps. So again, we have an interpretation of the Cold War version of this game. And you may think, why does that matter? Well, I just have installed 35 gig of textures for one game. Whoever's working on the Warzone version of these operators are basically making a copy of it. They're not incorporating the exact model or indeed the code that goes with it. But the first thing I noticed was his pants looked a lot better. I wouldn't say they were perfect. They certainly don't look as good as the Cold War version, but they've definitely lost that horrible JPEG compression. And again, in the YouTube video that I'm showing you here, it in itself is compressed. So it might not be as visually striking to you, but it's definite for me. As soon as I saw that, I thought, okay, there's a bit of where that 10 gig that I just put in went on his pants. But let's move on. It is clearer now for people who are wondering what resolution I'm running this. I'm running this at 4K on a PS4 Pro, and I'm actually super sampling it down to 1080p, which is what you'll be viewing this video in YouTube. So really, it should be as noticeable to me now. And clearly those are really high-res textures. But I don't think there's a massive difference between them and the low-res ones, given how often you see a gun close up. Now, shortly I'll be going into the actual main map, in the area that I went to in my very first video about the high resolution texture pack 1 over by that monument, and we'll see if anything's changed in game. But for now, I just wanted to check out that gun, and also I had a gold HDR. Unfortunately now there's that green overlay that they've introduced to denote anything that's from Modern Warfare, and there's that horrible bloom and compression, and it'll look terrible in the YouTube video. It's actually not too bad here, but by the time this is compressed, all of the bloom that's around there will look like little Minecraft blocks going around. But at least we can take a look at the gun a little closer. And again, I'm not seeing massive differences here. I wouldn't expect to. I thought they were pretty high res as they were, but I think high res is a misnomer. I think what you have here is just raw uncompressed files, or at least very highly uncompressed files, so like a lossless compression of 100%. So, whereas say 60% lossy compression on the lower resolution versions. There's not really much point in doing a side-by-side, because by the time I actually put them in two little boxes, they're so small you can't see. So take my word for it, the guns look pretty much the same, at least the ones I've looked at. Now, of course, in that 10 gig will be a whole bunch of guns I don't have or have not unlocked yet. So I haven't even finished the battle pass, so I haven't even unlocked the new free guns. They'll all have textures applied to them, which I don't get to see yet. So it's not just about the bunch of guns that came with the original vanilla Warzone that'll address. And finally, I just wanted to look at the pillar, because I did look at that in the first one, and I couldn't see any difference here at all. Now, it's possible that some guns, fortunately I can't zoom in on this one, for whatever reason. There's no animation mode, but I did notice a sort of aperture down the barrel there, which I don't remember seeing before, but it may have been there. And there was writing on the box there where it says FS 5 or 3 or something like that, and you can just see the embossed writing there. So yeah, this looks pretty much the same, and I really wouldn't expect it to. So in sum up, so far I have noticed a difference in the operators that are from Cold War. If I go to the operators that are not in Cold War, the original operators here, looks great. One thing I do, well, it does look better. No, that looks better. Even now I'll find out that this operator hadn't actually been changed by this. And it's just my imagination, which I always think when I'm doing these videos. One thing I do want to go to is the, I don't think he's French, Russian guy, Nicolau, with the glasses. When I did a vid earlier, I wanted to see if the pop-in was still there. White shirt, then lines. No. Interesting. So I wonder if his texture is now on my machine, and it was being pulled off the internet previously. That's the first time I've looked at him. In fact, I've not seen any pop-in at all. Let's have a look at this. Little there, but that just could have just been the rendering of the individual tendrils of the ghillie suit. Yeah, a little there. See if we can go to someone we haven't been. It's instant now. This could be the best change I've seen. So it'll be interesting to go into the game and see if it does any of that I'll show a clip now of what I'm talking about, which I talked about in my most recent video of texture pop-in on what I think should be textures on the hard drive. As you can see here, the building in the background's blurry, and then it's clean, and then it's blurry again, and that WH lettering there goes from horrible compression to, just as I go to bend down, it becomes clear. But at least for now, oh yeah, this is a world of difference. I was making, oh, there was one. Okay. There's a little there on his arms. Okay. To sum up what I think of the operators and guns, I think the guns probably are unchanged, or if they are, some of them, you know, may be better than others, and there may be guns I've not looked at. Operators are much better with the Texture Pack 2 in terms of the pop-in that happens. I'm just not seeing it for the most part. Right, his tattoos took a little time to come in there. So not everything's on board, but I was doing a vid the other day to accompany my most recent one, and this actually took over that, the Texture Pack 2, and I was complaining about how bad it was, and now it's perfectly acceptable. Okay, I'm excited. Right, let's jump into actual game footage. Coming in, one of the new things that I noticed was the buildings sometimes would look like tents until all of the textures and geometry came in. It definitely looks better. Yes. I'm seeing trees and so on, and as it comes in, objects that are optimized for long distance are changing to ones that are more suited for closer distances. But I think that would happen in any one of these games. I'm not talking about that so much, but if you look on the detail in the building in the middle, I have no idea how I just got an assist there, by the way. I haven't come off my parachute. Okay. You can see, you know, the area that you come out at the top there, and the solar panels on it and whatnot. And this area here where the building site is, and I'm actually going to the original monument. It's in Hills, if you want to go there yourself. There's a quad bike there. And I also think I'll be left alone there to do this filming. But the first thing I'm going to do when I land is go and have a look at the bench. And without too much surprise, it looks exactly the same. But that's okay. I don't think 10 gig would cover all of the textures that are needed on a map this big. Just wanted to see if anything had changed here. No, they look exactly as bad as they did, which I'm assuming means... whatever, if I press the right button to crouch down. Yeah, no differences here. Not going to bother putting a side by side, but if you go back and look at my previous vid, I walk all around this thing, and I can tell you right now it's absolutely the same. In a slightly different location, but that's okay, because I wanted to change my site anyway. See if any of this would do that blurring that we saw in my most recent video. I'm going to talk too soon here, but I don't see it. There. There's the monument I was at. Nope, this looks great. Further testing needs to be done, but I want to get this video out whilst the Cold War free week is on, to allow anyone who hasn't discovered to get the texture pack in to get it. But I'll tell you what, if this is what it has done, and it seems to be, it has removed a lot of my most recent complaints with the textures going horribly fuzzy, low res, especially at a distance. And I've just looked at things I haven't looked at before, you know, because you think, well, it's cached. Like that tree's bad. And there you go, it's kind of clicking in. That tree's clicking in. And it's gone back to bad again. That's bad, but the buildings were doing it. And they're not now. Okay, why don't we jump out of the game and sum up where we are. And I must say, it genuinely looks better. I don't mean visually in terms of the actual textures, but the texture pop-in has all but almost gone. I don't know what to say about that. Could a 10 gig, it's almost like a patch, but I'm going to say pack, have that much of an impact? I've been playing this a lot recently, and it really has, but more testing needs to be done. I consider this part 1 of Texture Pack 2. I will do a part 2 where I go into more detail of things that I've found as time goes on. But in order to get this video out before the free week is over, I'll just say that thanks for watching. My name's Vinny Voodoo, and I'll talk to you soon.